We come today in our studies of Nehemiah to chapter 13, verses 4 to 31. After 12 years as governor of Jerusalem, in the years 445 to 433 BC, Nehemiah returned to Babylon. Later, after an unspecified time, he returned for a second spell in office, as we're told in verse 6. And these verses give us an account of his second governorship, and they're recorded for two reasons. First of all, chapter 8 to 12 described a people stirred up by the Spirit of God to make a covenant, declaring their intention to be faithful to the Lord. They also described the blessings of God upon them while they remained faithful to him. Sadly, this chapter shows us how short were their memories and how weak their wills. For all their fine words and their encouraging deeds, they quickly capitulated to the enemies of God's people. Thus Tobiah, of all people, had gained a foothold even in the temple, and had forced the religious authorities to clear out the equipment which was vital for the worship of God and necessary for the support of his servants. We read of that in verses 4 to 9. The people had also begun to neglect the support of God's servants, forcing them out of their ministry through poverty. Nehemiah understood that this was to neglect not only the worship of God, but also God himself, as is emphasized in verses 10 to 14. And then the people had allowed their daily activities to crowd out time which should have been dedicated to God, as we see in verses 15 to 22. Finally, they had allowed their attitudes and actions to slip away from the standards God had set them. And we see that in verses 23 to 31.